7 o'clock. Welcome. This is the regular meeting for the City Commission, Monday, January 27th, 2020. We have now called the meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is Pastor Dave Mitchell here by any chance? He's scheduled to do the invocation, and if no one came to substitute for him, we will move on. Tonight we have a special recognition. We are recognizing the Buchanan City Fire Department on their excellent ISO rating, and I have a certificate of appreciation to give to them. I just wanted to read it in the microphone for the our recording purposes. The City of Buchanan proudly honors the Buchanan City Fire Department for their commitment to making our community a safer place by improving the consistency, uniformity, and quality of department procedures in accordance with the Insurance Services Office, or ISO, and by improving the department's overall ISO rating from a 5 to a 4, and by continuing to provide outstanding fire and first responder services to city residents. Life is better here because of the Buchanan City Fire Department. Thank you for your service to our community, and I've signed it with today's date. So will you please come forward and accept your recognition? Congratulations. I'm sure, like, later on, you're going to explain to everyone how important the ISO rating is to everyone and how it impacts every person that lives here. Thank you so much for your dedication, your bravery, and your leadership. Let's have one more. That was an excellent way to start the meeting. Could we have roll call, please?
Moore,
Here.
Dennison,
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Turney,
Here.
Whedon.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. We now have public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any agenda item. I also have, there are papers there. If someone does not want to come forward, they can write comments and the clerk will read them. So you have that option also. Mr. Martin.
Hi there. My name is Richard Martin, and I've been looking through the list of ordinances on the website for the City of Buchanan. And I was wondering, what is the procedure? How does someone get something created as an ordinance?
Well, this is actually your time for comments, so your comment should be in the
Okay, my
phrase
comment
of,
is-
you would like to start an ordinance,
Well, yeah,
and
yeah. Mhm.
then, basically, the best way to do it is contact the city manager, and they
Oh.
will guide you through the process.
Okay.
If you put the concept or issue down on paper, that really would help. Then we can talk, and I can forward that to the commission for their review.
Okay. Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Richard.
your inquiry. Is there anyone else wanting to make a public comment? And this is about any agenda item. Okay, seeing no one else rise, we are going to move on to the consent calendar. Are we having any changes to this? Excellent, very good. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar then.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Very good. Very good, thank you. Could we have roll call?
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you very much. We're now down to reports. And the chief, fire department yearly report, Mike Adams.
All right, good evening, mayors, commissioners. This is obviously the time of the year for us to talk about how 2019 went for the fire department. So in your packet, you'll see the report that I put together. We ran 138 calls for 2019. As far as I know, that's the highest recorded amount of calls we've ever ran. And I did put together some facts for that. It's not in your packet, but over the course of the last 8 years, we've been slowly progressing. When I got on the fire department in the early 90s, we ran about 60 to 70 or 80 calls, and that stayed pretty average. And then over the course of, since in the late, or I should say from 2010 on, we've been averaging over 100 calls, and that keeps rising every year, especially the last 3 years. It's just kind of slowly went up. And then, as you know, the more calls we run, the more effect it is on budgets and equipment and everything that goes with that. But so we're definitely staying busy. In 2019, we had 9 fires in the structure. You'll see that. That doesn't necessarily mean it was a full-blown structure fire. That could have been an oven fire. It could have been, something like that inside the structure. Several of those, as you know, we had a pretty busy fall. We had several actual structure fires within a 6-week period. We had 5 fires that we responded to outside, which could have been grass fires, a shed fire, or a dumpster fire. 2 vehicle fires. We went to 13 illegal burning complaints, 10 motor vehicle accidents. That's a number that's been staying. Obviously, one of our big things was the vehicle electrification equipment that we purchased in the not so recent past, and that number has stayed the same. You'll see on the right side of the page, I've got last year's numbers, and the motor vehicle accidents is exactly the same as it was in 2018. 13 mutual aid requests. Those are typically, if we get requested, as a structure fire. Not every time, but usually if we're getting requested from one of the townships or further out, it's for manpower or equipment for a structure fire. We responded to 43 alarms. It says fire alarms. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always a fire alarm. That could be a CO call. It could be a different type of alarm, like a flow alarm. Doesn't always mean it's a fire alarm. But we responded to 43 of those. 7 smoke investigations, 2 medical assists. That could be anything from a lift assist to performing CPR. And then 34 others, which, as you see, that could be power lines, assisting with a missing person, what we call a service call, if we're just going to do something like break a, pop a lock or do something like that for somebody, or a gas leak. So that went down from last year. We had 49 of those, but we made up in alarms and fires. So to kind of summarize last year in January, there's required training that we do every year, that we have to perform CPR, bloodborne pathogens, right to know, all those types of things. We usually do that in the first couple months of the year. Last year, we started the fire inspection program, which is part of the reason why we're ISO, which is a big part of why we're moved in ISO. Started that program, and then in February, we got most of the downtown area completed with our first inspection. That was probably some of our most difficult inspections, was the downtown area. In March, we hosted the Berrien County Firefighters meeting. They come here, they move around through the county every month, and we hosted that last March. That went well. In April, we hosted several activities, high school drills. We also supported the ISO inspector came. He was with us for 3 days, so that happened in April. Obviously, we didn't get the results till later in the year, but that's when he was here. In May, we always support the food carrier food drive, the mail carrier food drive. We attended more fire drills with the school. We've been trying to be more involved with the school, attending fire drills or lockdown drills, and making ourselves obviously more aware and available for those things. June, we put the vehicle extrication equipment in service. We had the open house in July, where we actually demonstrated cutting a car open, and obviously had things at the firehouse for people to come see and do. In August, we did our typical, we support the Berrien County Youth Fair. We send the area up there with the crew. They stay there for 12 hours, supporting the fair. That way, there's plenty of engines that go up there. We always send the aerial because if there's a rescue, there's an aerial on scene. In August, besides that, we also responded where we used our vehicle extrication equipment for the first time on an accident. We used it prior to that when we had it put in service in July, but it was like a service call. But as you know, unfortunately, the personnel that passed away on that accident, we actually did the vehicle extrication on that. And then in September, we received notice from ISO that we had removed from a 5 to a 4. And then the latter part of the year was just normal activities. I don't have much to report for that. It was kind of a rough time for me. My mother was not doing well at that time. If you turn the page, then we did, as we usually do, we spent 230 man-hours conducting internal training. That's our own, search and rescue, CPR, the things we have to do, pump training, aerial training, SCBA, consumption courses, things like that. We spent 230 hours of that. We also did 208 hours of training outside the department, and that could be anything from the fire inspector going to continuing education we had people that went to the Amtrak class in Baroda. Of course, we had the state certification extrication training. We had several things that we did. We conducted 264 hours of truck maintenance. That's our monthly, where we do inventory and truck, what they call functional, where we function everything that's on the truck. So we spent several hours of that every year doing that. And then we spent 324 hours with the public. And that's all the activities we perform between fire prevention with the schools, they're on the hill, the splash day, any of those things, we add those hours up, and it adds up to quite a bit. And then, like I was saying, I was talking about, I have been there with the recent FOIA request that I was working on. I was able to go through a lot of our old records, and that's where I came up with the numbers for the past few years and how we've been increasing in our call volume, especially in the last 3 years. So in 2019, our membership did go down. We lost a couple people. One person moved, a couple were inactive, so we asked them to either become active or leave, because if they're on for a long time and inactive, they're not helping us anymore. So and that happens. But so we went down a little bit, but we were able to during the year we also were able to start building back up. We actually put on a gentleman who's from Poland, a really cool guy. He's a diesel mechanic, that helps us. We put him on, he's considered a trainee right now. He'll be taking the firefighter 1 and 2 next fall. We have 2 applicants that we currently have. One is an electrician apprentice, which is good, and one young lady that's applied, and we have 1 cadet. So we're building our numbers back up. We didn't get real low, but we did get a little bit lower than we've been for a while. And then, as you know, we've been working through the list, which I'm going to talk about, that I had my 5-year list. And one of the last things on that list was the SCBA replacement. We had 24 bottles that needed to be replaced because they were into their life next month. And we finished that up here just this last week. So that's been completed. As we move into 2020, we want to complete our first round of fire inspections. We're real close to that. We're probably about a month from completing the first inspection of all the businesses and industrial in town. Once that's done, then we'll begin our second visit to many of them. We're going to go back to the ones that we know that had a lot that needed to be worked on, and then work our way from there. And at that point, at some point, we'll be coming back to the table with you guys, or coming back to the podium. And because what we have to do is, one thing we have to do is we talked about last year was the first year. We're going to come in, we're going to look at everything and just kind of tell you what we expect. Here's the things you can improve upon, but really don't expect compliance. This year was the compliance year, so when we come back this year, we make our second visit, that's when we're going to expect compliance. And one of the things we have to do is decide how we're going to manage that, especially for non-compliance. That's something that we'll have to sit down either in a work session or something, and kind of figure out how we're gonna go proceed with that, because the city's gonna have to be involved, because obviously we don't have any full-time staff. But that's something we'll have to work, but we are looking forward to finishing that and working through with the next round. And so the ISO, very much appreciate the recognition. It was a lot of hard work. And then for those who don't know, and one of the things I was gonna talk to Bill about is a way to get the word out, but obviously we have progressed from a 5 to a 4. As far as I know, I'm not sure how much it affects the homeowner. I know it affects the business owner quite a bit. But most insurances aren't going to go, hey, you got a discount, we're gonna give it to you. You have to ask for it. And so something we have to work on is getting the word out to everybody to ask their insurance companies about that. Because I know that there's a significant difference for them. As we proceed, and one of the things that I was gonna talk about is, we are a 4, but we're very close to a 3. And if we make a 3, that makes a difference for the homeowners too. How the classifications, kind of the dividing line for homeowners is from a 4 to a 3. You know, businesses work for every class, but a homeowner doesn't make much big of a difference until you actually hit a 3. We're just a few points, very few points away from a 3. If we continue with our fire inspection program, and we're also doing fire pre-planning while we're doing fire inspection. We have John, or our fire inspector, and at least 1 or 2 firefighters go with them, and he performs the fire pre-plan. That scored us a lot of points. That's how each category, when you're getting an ISO inspection, hey, every category has a point system. You know, from equipment to fire response, to inspections, and all those things have a point system. And we scored a lot more points than we've had before, because obviously we didn't have a fire inspection program, and we had fire pre-plans, but very, very few. And now we've got most of the town pre-planned. So as that progresses, we also started, and we're gonna continue with it this year, is hydrant flow testing. Not just flowing water out of it and seeing how much it is, but doing residual and static pressure tests. If we continue with that, we'll score more points with ISO. I'm 100% confident within a year we can request the inspector to come back, and I feel that we could make a 3. And that would be a significant accomplishment also. But obviously we have to stay diligent and keep working on what we're doing. And I think that pretty much finishes up the yearly report, other than I did want to mention that it's not in your packet. So a little over 5 years ago, I came up with a 5-year plan, sat down with Bill, and then I presented it to the sitting commission at the time, and this is where the tax line money started from, because we needed large capital money for these items. So one of the first item on the list was refurbing our engine, our older engine, our 1989 Spartan 4620. We did do that. It's been hard to believe it's been 5 years ago now already. Purchase of new fire gear. As you probably know, the gear that we had was purchased with a grant in '04, and 10-year life on that was expired a few years ago. So we finished that. We also purchased new fire pagers. Excuse me. We replaced all the bottles I just mentioned, and one of the items that wasn't on the list that we obviously did recently was vehicle electrification equipment, because the need arises for that, where we didn't know that it was such a problem 5 years ago. There's 2 items on there that we did not finish, and then we'll see, I don't know when we'll be able to finish these, especially the one is the new fire station. We know that that's, if it'll happen, is down the road, but sometime in the near future. Our ladder truck is 26 years old this year. Still a great truck. Most ladder trucks' life expectancy is 25 to 30 years. Now, obviously, they can last longer than that, but that's kind of the working age for them. An engine is 20 to 25 typically, and our ladder right now is 26. By the time it's 30 years old, we'll have to come back into the table and look at what we want to do with it. It's in great shape still. But a refurb would probably be the way to go, being that a new one costs around $1 million today, depending on what you get. But a refurb we could get for quite a bit significant lower price than that, several $1,000s less. So that's something we'll have to come to the table with, but just so you know that there is nothing wrong with that truck. Like I say, it's been a great truck. The people who did the when they spec'd that out, did a fantastic job, and it served this community and several others, especially when it was new, and it's still serving well. So, okay, so if you move on, I would like to cover with you our changes in our SOGs, our standing operating guidelines. These are in the city doc. So anytime we make a change, we have to present it and get approval. The first one, it should be the fire inspector, should be the SOG 7.1. And that's a new guideline. We should have brought this to the table last year. Obviously, we had it ready and just never made it to the table to get it approved. But this is for our fire inspections. This is kind of generic to start with, but we knew this was going to be a working document as we went through, as we did the program. We were going to see things that we could add to this to make it better. Basically, it just talks about the responsibilities. Obviously, I, as the fire chief, having jurisdiction, have the overall responsibility for making sure this happens. The fire inspector has his responsibility for setting the frequency and scheduling of the fire inspections. We'll maintain all of the compliance inspections. Like, again, when we get to the table, for a non-compliance, that's when we'll have to look to the city for help. But right now, we'll maintain all of the inspections that are compliance. I'm supposed to monitor the program, and it talks about members of the Buchanan City Fire Department have the opportunity to support it, which is what we've been doing with the fire inspection, or excuse me, with the pre-planning. We'll use the appropriate inspection forms, which right now we're using in the IFC, the International Fire Code, but we have the option for the NFPA code also. And then we have the responsibility for public notifications. And usually, like I say, that's not a problem. We call ahead of time and usually schedule them in the next week. We don't try to tell somebody we're coming tomorrow. And then, of course, the inspector must maintain a certification, which he has been doing. So that's a new SOG. That's one of the ones that we should have brought to the table last year. The next one is the on-scene incident report and on-scene protocol. It's on several pages, but the only thing we really changed, and the change in there should be highlighted, and that's in 4 for apparatus response. In the third bullet down, 4640, the aerial responses to all commercial and industrial type fires and alarms, we added is the first out for all vehicle accidents and extrication requests. Because the truck basically had the most room, so that's where the tools and all the equipment that goes with that, and that's just not just the tools. So when you have vehicle extrication, obviously there's support tools that go with that, and a lot of cribbing if you have to stabilize a vehicle. And it was the truck it's the only truck that had the room pretty much for what we needed. So that truck now is the first truck out when we have a vehicle accident. It's also the biggest truck for blocking the road, so that works out real well. And then if we have, when I say extrication, if we're requesting there, obviously if somebody, like if Bertrand requests us for assistance on the bypass with a large accidents or something like that, that's what that part is. That's the only change in that SOG. The next one is in recruitment and staffing, 1.2. And this is, unfortunately, last year, we had an applicant that failed the agility test. When anybody comes on to the fire department, one of the first things, once they've made their 5 meetings and 5 trainings, we make sure that they're interested in us and we're interested in them and they know what it's about. We send them for a physical. They go get a physical, a doctor's physical, and then they have to perform a physical agility test. Well, last year was the first time we had somebody that failed. We've never had anybody fail, and we had no failure criteria in our SOG. So that's one of the things we added to this. This is what we wound up doing, but we didn't have it written down on paper. The applicant who fails any portion of the agility test will be given a chance to retest the entire test within 30 days. If the applicant fails the second time, they will not be hired to the Buchanan City Fire Department. And C, if the applicant fails twice, they will be allowed to reapply within 1 year, given they provide proof of physical endurance activity during that time. So that gives us some failure criteria. We also added down the page in N for firefighter 2 status shall be achieved at the individual's discretion. So it says shall be achieved discretion. once they obtain their firefighter 1. Then they must have firefighter 2 if they wish to become an officer on this department, or any department actually, or if they desire to work full-time. So in the state of Michigan, to actively fight fire, to go into a burning structure, you only have to have firefighter 1. Our county does firefighter 1 and 2 together, excuse me. So our SOGs just talked about firefighter 2 having to obtain that. We had a situation come up last year where we had several people that couldn't make the firefighter 1 and 2 schedule. So a firefighter 1 class was created, and that's why this is being changed, so we can accommodate just firefighter 1. 2 isn't a requirement. That's it for that one. The next one is membership requirements in SOG 1.3. And this kind of part of this goes in conjunction with what we just talked about in D on the third bullet. D of 2. It talks about the firefighter 1 class or challenge academy in Berrien County, which is what we did. The firefighter 1, the county didn't recognize it as a firefighter 1 class. They considered it what they call a challenge academy, where people get class and then they just come and challenge the test. So that's what that was. And then this again, as scheduled by the training council, and all other classes will be set by the lead instructor of the training. And then the H, that one's highlighted. For long-term memberships that move outside the city limits, their continued membership will be at my discretion. That's basically because we kind of have a unwritten rule of 5 miles outside of the city limits, just because that's a pretty long ways to come for our response. As most people know, we have a pretty quick response. So we're pretty lenient with somebody that's been on a while, but somebody that's new coming in, that we're a little shy of, or a little weary of putting on people that live several miles outside of the city. Usually we direct them to go to one of the townships that they're living in. And then we added, you'll see the number 4, we added the social media. We didn't have any social media policy, basically, so people don't take pictures and share them on places that we don't want them. And that's it for that one. That's it for all of them. Questions?
Any questions?
No question.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious if you can tell us, during the inspections that you did downtown, what kind of reaction did you get from the business owners? How did they respond to those?
Well, none of them were negative as far as coming in and doing the inspection, but we just haven't seen anything done yet, I guess is the way to say it. From, obviously, we have people, besides, we did the inspection, we have people that go, obviously, into those buildings for their recreational purposes or whatever. And so far, we haven't seen any of the recommendations that happened, or that were required, or requested. So yeah, there was no negativity as far as allowing us to come in. There was just, seemed to be a little resistant on actually doing what we asked.
And they're aware that you're coming back?
Oh, yeah.
So if they haven't completed what you requested, then on the second turn, do you issue a citation?
Well, so we're gonna come back again, obviously, and then if that's where we have to come back to the table and finish establishing our policy on how we're gonna do that. My thought is we're gonna come back a second time. If we don't see compliance, then we're gonna have to come back and give them like a 30-day notice. And then if we don't see compliance in 30 days, give them 7 more days or something like that. And then the non-compliance,
Okay.
fine, whatever we're gonna decide, but that's what we'll have to do. But we get to that point, somehow it'll have to transition from dealing with us to dealing with the city, just because, like I said, we don't have any full-time or part-time staff.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of the premises. Once we come back, if we don't see compliance, within a timely manner, then we'll do another official inspection. Well, we'll have to sit down at the table and write down the plan, or the SOG, and how we want to perform and how we want to proceed. But that's kind of the thought, is we're going to finish our first round, plan out how we're going to do the second round, and push forward.
Thanks, Mike.
Is it possible, not tonight, I don't expect you to go through the list, but that you could provide us, maybe the next meeting with a list of, or even next Friday or the following Friday, with a list of the highest,
Priority.
no, the numbers that had the highest out of compliance. So if you had X amount of no exit signs or whatever the criteria were, could you provide a list of the items that had the highest number of non-compliance for your inspections?
I'm sure we could get the numbers, just so I'm clear on what you want.
So if you had a, sorry, go ahead.
You're looking for any place that we went that hasn't done anything yet since we've been there, is that what you mean?
No, so if you went in and you inspected, let's say, numbers 1 through 3, and number 1, whatever that number may be, I know you provided us with the inspection list, what was the highest number? Was that non-compliance at every business, or was that, did every business have a similar non-compliance issue?
Oh, yeah, no.
Right.
I would say what it appears, and I don't have the numbers obviously in front of me, but
Absolutely.
what it appears that, and I wouldn't say non-compliance yet.
Right.
But the businesses that haven't done anything that we looked at yet is really low, really.
Okay.
And we can get those numbers to you, but it's pretty low. Comparatively to the numbers of inspections that's been performed, the numbers are really, really low. I mean,
Okay.
everybody's been pretty good about, most people want to be safe, and everybody's been really pretty good about either asking questions what is needed, or actually doing it and then having us come back. We've had some people call and, hey, come back and look at this, I want to make sure I got it right.
Okay.
So it's been pretty good, honestly.
And the reason I ask is, in my experience with OSHA, there's always a consistency, right? And then once you're in compliance, since we're not, whatever terminology you want to use, you consistently are going to know that that's the items you need to meet your criteria for fire inspections, and then once those are met, it's fairly simple. Just as much as OSHA is simple once you do the items that they set
Yeah,
in
and
place.
exactly. And in all honesty, most of the industrial areas we've been have been good. I
Absolutely.
mean, there's been some things, obviously, but because they all have to meet OSHA and my OSHA already,
Absolutely.
that those have been pretty good. I
Okay.
mean, been a few things here and there, but mostly it's been some of the smaller businesses, especially in the downtown area, but it hasn't been a lot, honestly. It's been just a few, in all reality.
Next one.
So that's not a bad thing, but obviously it's something we'll probably have to deal with.
Very good. Thank you.
Did you want to say
I
something
think
else?
what Mark is looking for is maybe a list of what is out of compliance and what is needed, so that we as a commission have an idea
Right.
of what we're looking at. And that's, I think, what Mark was leading
And
up to.
we could do that, but I would prefer to wait till we actually get the first round completely done, and then we can come back to the table
Oh,
with that.
absolutely.
And then maybe that's when we can decide how
Sure.
we're gonna proceed with the
So we have an idea.
compliance, non-compliance.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Because we're probably a month from being completely done
Okay.
there, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Good. Thanks, Mike.
Just one more question.
Sure.
I know, I've read in the news and seen it on the news that the numbers of recruits is going down every year, it seems like, especially for volunteers. But I'm wondering, do you do anything at the high school with some of those kids trying to recruit kids, or?
Actually, we do. That's where our cadet program started. We haven't been up there, obviously, we haven't been up there this year. We do plan on, Bob Blaylock, our assistant chief, works with the schools quite a bit. And that's how we kind of got started with our cadet program, was we went to the schools and we're recruiting. And so if someone's 16, they can come on the department. We have 3 spaces for 3 cadets. And that's been one of our founding or baseline things. Is several of our members now are ex-cadets. They started as cadets. And one of the great things about it, if they go through the career pathways through the school, the career pathways is they can go through Firefighter 1 basically while they're in school. So if we put on a cadet at 16 years old, they go through career pathways, they get a certificate. When they turn 18, they're now a certified firefighter. And they've been on your department for 2 years. So you get a person with 2 years experience and now can fight fire. So it's a great, great program. Like I said, we haven't been in the school yet this year, but we are planning it.
That's a great question. And so, the extrication equipment you've used 2 or 3 times then?
Yes.
And I think you used it at my house when the car flipped over, but that wasn't listed here, but,
No,
so don't
no,
forget
yeah.
that, but.
It was pretty minor, but we did use it.
Yeah, because they couldn't get the door open, the guy was hanging upside down. So, yeah, I would call that, someone would want to have their door open for them. So I think it was really a good thing that we did pursue that and purchase that for you, so I think that was great. And then as far, personally, I've been inspected by the fire inspector and found him to be very pleasant, educational. I had to add a fire extinguisher, so I didn't know for that smaller room I needed it, but I was happy to do it. So I think any kind of listing would only really be meaningful after that second round, when you've gone to see what wasn't done
Yeah.
and what needs to do, needs to be done. Because then that will be what we will need to focus on if there is some kind of danger to the public, or it's danger to the buildings, or something, other educational things that we could do that would work with you in carrying that message over, so.
Okay, yep, and we can, I say, we can definitely do that. I definitely want to get the first round done before we
Yes,
try to do anything.
I certainly
But yeah,
agree,
definitely.
so.
Yeah, and John's done a great job. Obviously, we're wearing this tonight. This is our duty uniform. This is what they perform the inspections in, and pre-planning. So it's, we're not coming to the door with t-shirts and blue jeans. We're, looking professional when we come. So
Yeah.
that's something I've been very proud of.
Yeah, he did a very professional job. It was very impressive and helped us, so.
Yeah, he was a good
was-
choice. He's doing well.
Excellent, yes, I
Um,
agree.
So,
Um,
go ahead.
So would this be a good time to entertain a motion to approve your SOGs that you've presented?
Please.
Okay? Anyone?
I'll make the motion to approve the SOGs presented by the fire chief.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes,
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent.
thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I do want to mention one more thing while I have your time. I know these people are probably tired of hearing me talk. But while I have your attention, and I'll have to come back to the table next month, but one of the things I need to let you know that, so by the year 2022, Berrien County is moving to 800 megahertz radios. You've probably heard that. So dispatch will no longer use VHF. That's what we typically use for our radios and our pagers. So there was a push this year. The county was actually getting a radio grant. They were denied for whatever reason, switched over to pagers. In the fall, I had mentioned I was kind of distracted through the fall with my mother, so I wasn't involved in a lot of external stuff that I didn't have to with the fire department. And so we missed out on part of the deal in the fall, but so the county has a matching grant right now for pager purchase, for 800 megahertz pagers. So if we purchase 20 pagers, they'll basically pay for 10 of them. Whatever the price is, they're gonna come up with half of it until the money runs out, or the end of this year, whichever comes first. So I'm gonna have the numbers for you for the next meeting, but at some point, we're gonna have to transition. We're pretty good on 800 radios as far as the department goes. One of the things Warren Weaver did way back was started buying 800 paid radios. So we only have, when that day comes in 2022, we'll only have to purchase a few. But to get on this deal with the county, I hate to wait and miss out on the 50% matching. So just to have the bug in your ear and know that I'll be coming back to the table with some numbers to get approval for purchasing 800 megahertz pagers. Okay?
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
And let's have another round of applause for our fire department. Okay, we also have some seats up in front. If people don't want to stand, you're welcome to move up and have a seat. Okay. Okay, we're on item B, Colors of Cancer Run, the Niles Buchanan Relay for Life, Tracy House. Event organizer, welcome.
Want to learn everything. I'm Tracy House. I'm the Niles Buchanan Relay for Life event lead, and last year you guys let us do a color run down on the trail, and we blocked off some roads, and we'd like to try again this year. Our number wasn't great, but we did have some support. Brenda, I think, helped support, and Cameron and Donna came down and ran with us, so we'd just like to see more people out this year, so we're gonna try, if you guys are willing.
Can you explain more of what it is?
Oh,
when
well,
it
it's gonna be,
takes place?
I think we have 4 stations of color that you would run through the trail, and we would have people stationed there to throw powdered color on you to stick to your shirts, and just as support of showing the colors of cancer and the different colors of the ribbons and stuff like that. That's why we picked this type of a run. So
And how long is the run?
it was
5K.
5K. I'm not a runner.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think you can walk, can't you?
yeah, we did have a few people walked, but we had some runners, and we hope to get to the runner associations and stuff like that this year and see if we can get our number up. So.
Is there a fee that goes along with this when people
Well,
register?
we were kind of waiting to get approved again, but I believe it was 25 last year.
Do you have a date?
Seemed
Do
like it was-
you have a date set?
May 16th was the date we were looking for.
Is it roughly when you did it last year? Was it in May, in the middle of May?
Yeah, it wasn't, I think it was about the same, probably the second week in May, I think it was.
Now, we've already tonight approved your street closures.
Yeah, and then we were just gonna keep it the same as what we did last year.
Okay.
So.
So, are you wanting us to make a motion to approve your event for May 16th then?
Yes, please.
Could I have a motion?
I'll make that motion that we approve the Colors of Cancer Run, Niles Buchanan Relay for Life.
I'll support.
Any further discussion? And hopefully, please keep us
Yeah, get
aware
some-
of like things we can put on the channels and come up to the meetings, remind people how to sign up, who to talk to
Yeah.
sign up, all those kind of things. So you have an opportunity at every meeting, you can be doing that, also put things out on the website.
Okay, sounds great.
So we'll help you that way too. So any other discussion? Then we'll have roll call, please.
Good luck.
Downey,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
motion carries.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck. All right, now we're at item C, the introduction and swearing in of the new Buchanan City Police Department Chief of Police, Tim Gaines.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'd like to take the honor and the pleasure to introduce Tim Gaines as Buchanan's next Chief of Police. Tim was selected through a process that allows us to post the position internally within the city. Tim came to the city back in October of 2012. He's been the assistant chief since that time. Has done a very, very good job, and I think you've all recognized that in the comments I've received from you all, and I do appreciate that. You know, some of the things we try to look for in that chief position is the ability to communicate well. He's performed that and presented that as a strong trait. He has the ability to talk with people. He has high integrity. He's very honest. I've worked with him both here and at the Sheriff's Department for a lot of years. He's garnered his own respect in the police community, which is very important to network when this community needs something from the rest of the law enforcement world out there. That's very important. Some of the other traits that Tim has is compassion and empathy. The chief of police has to have that balance to work within a community, especially a small community, to understand people's situations and You know, your first, you know, I kind of describe it as being a law enforcement officer or a peace officer, okay? There's law enforcement officers will have that ticket book in hand and ready to write those tickets. Peace officer keeps the peace. And that person, he or she, can do that in a way that is supportive of the individual that may be having a really tough time in their life at that situation, that time. And so the police chief has to have the ability to work with all kinds of situations, from emergency situations to, again, the barking dog situations, and appeasing neighbors during property line disputes. It's a whole gamut of things. But you have to understand, you know, your position within a small community and how to make everything work. And Tim has that capability, and he's already shown that. So I'm very pleased that we had this kind of resource within the police department. We were able to fill it within, and so I'm very pleased to introduce Tim Gaines as the police chief of the city of Buchanan.
I don't know if I'm supposed to speak, but I'm going to. First
Feel
of
free.
all, Chief Marks, City Manager Marks, thank you very much. We've worked together for a very long time. Great guy. Thank you for all the opportunities that you've given me here. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you very much. This is a very humbling night to take this position. As you guys all know, this is my hometown. This is where I wanted to come and work, and to be having the opportunity of being the chief of police is just great. So I appreciate that opportunity, and just want to let you know that we will continue, myself along with the department will continue every day working hard to protect and serve the citizens of Buchanan. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
One of the responsibilities is on the clerk, but the police chief has to be give an oath of office, and that's what Brenda will present at this time.
Okay, you need to raise your right hand, and you can just affirm at the end. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and I will faithfully discharge, the duties of the office of Chief of Police in and for the City of Buchanan, County of Berrien, and the State of Michigan according to the best of my ability.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I think you brought your fan club here tonight?
Yeah, very good.
Which ones are those? I don't know.
Thank you, Tim.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The meeting's not over. I just want to let
But we understand.
So what is he gonna do if we don't approve it? I'm just kidding.
Did we have to approve that?
Yeah, I think
No,
so.
I guess so.
No.
We've already done it.
No, it's just an
I know,
introduction.
We're all good,
Yeah.
we're all good. Yeah, we, extra money, okay. All right, let's give them a minute to move out,
Yeah, that's no problem.
and then we're going to go to unfinished business. Well, now
Maybe I
we
didn't
have
make myself clear, but the meeting's not over.
a skeleton crew left. Okay, so let's go to unfinished business. Item A, consider approval of resolution 2020 .01204, authorizing the sale of water supply and sewage disposal system revenue bonds, Series 2020. Bill?
Mayor and Commissioners, both the A and B under unfinished business are pretty closely related.
Okay.
The A portion on this item is authorizing the sale of the municipal bond that will help fund the oxidation ditch project. If you looked at the ordinance specifically, it's basically authorizing through me to process those bonds and quote offer them for sale. I'm not going to be standing in some line trying to sell those. This has been prepared by our attorney, Miller Canfield, attorney's office, by a bond attorney, and this is following Andy Campbell's recommendation as our financial advisor. So this is a formal process that has to go through. That ordinance sets up for those sales. As I believe you may have read in the ordinance itself, it allows for a negotiated sale, which is a little different than a market sale. It allows us to step in short notice to take advantage of what Andy would find to be the best opportunity for the sale of those bonds. Okay, so he'll be watching the market and will act upon good market conditions to sell these bonds. So that's how it's set up. He recommends, and supported by the attorney's office, that this is a preferred way of doing it for the benefit of the community. So that is what A is. I can touch on B. B is basically the ordinance that provides the structure and the requirement upon the city to pay that bond, requires us to give those revenues that are created for the purpose of paying that bond to pay that bond. Okay, so it's locking us in to that structure for a future debt payment on the oxidation ditch project. So in short, that's kind of the explanation. You had copies of the ordinance under A and the ordinance under B that outlines that. So right now we're looking for approval on both of those items, A and B.
Any questions? Just so everyone knows, these are the results of many, many meetings on this oxidation ditch, because it's been in the planning for several years, and this is a way of financing it that will benefit the city.
Yes.
So would someone like to, let's take it in separate items, though. Let's go to A. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 2020.01/204, authorizing the sale of water supply and sewage disposal system revenue bonds, Series 2020.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, take a pick, Brendan. Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dennison,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. And likewise, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the second resolution, 415.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020.01-415, water supply and sewage disposal system revenue bond ordinance.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Any further questions or comments?
One question.
Okay.
Guess I should have done this on the first one, too.
Oh.
We agreed to apply for grants.
Yes.
Through Preen and
Preen and Newhoff.
Newhoff, right?
Yes.
How does that affect this if we were to get
The-
a very
the-
large grant?
You're talking about the USDA.
Yes.
We did have a meeting with them, and Preen and Newhoff, which you've approved their effort to make the application to the USDA. That process is related to our capital fund projects, which are the expansion of the line from the sewer plant along 3rd Street to Redbud, a new line from Redbud to Front Street, and then our downtown project that we spoke about. That capital project also includes addressing the lead and copper project that the state mandates up in the neighborhoods. And it also addresses finding an additional water well within our system. So we have, we're not just dependent on well 5. We're going to be replacing one of those shallower wells in our system in the wellhead protection area. So that big capital project is what is related to the USDA grant possibilities. And where we're at, we're in kind of a waiting mode for Preen to get that initial application complete. That application requires a lot of pre-engineering by Preen to answer a lot of questions, which will be very valuable to us. We'll probably have a work session when they get the application pre-engineering put together. They'll come down and actually greater detail those capital projects for us before we actually are committed to taking any money from USDA. We probably will have a better indication upon the completion of that pre-engineering report of what we can expect from a grant through the USDA. Again, USDA was here. They weren't, just throwing money out on the table that you're going to get this big grant. They played their cards pretty close to their cup, and so we've got to go through the application process to see where we stand with those grant dollars. But we hope we're going to be in a good position to get significant dollars towards that capital project. But that's what that's about, the capital projects. This USDA is not being used for the oxidation ditch. So that's where we at. We have got the bond set for this.
Did we look into any grants for the oxidation ditch?
There aren't really any grants other than maybe some USDA dollars, but our problem there, according to Andy Campbell, was that our timing was off cycle for the oxidation ditch to use USD money. Again, the process for USDA could be 6 months to a year to finally get it approved and money in hand. So we were told by Andy that we missed the window for this because we had to get out to bond within a timeline to get construction started in 2020. So that's unfortunately the way it broke down with the timing and scheduling for that.
Well, Sean and I were talking earlier today about that. It's like, we've known about this for the past year, and all of a sudden there was, this grant dangled in front of us, and we agreed to apply for it.
Yeah.
And this whole process has been in the process, in thought process for years now.
Yep, yep. Yep, and we were, what I can say is that we were working with Andy on this. USDA was brought up, but again, Andy's telling us that the cycle, if we went to the USDA, our cycle wouldn't be in time for our start date on the oxidation ditch. So, and again, he'll be here, and we can, you know, you can ask more of those questions regarding that, but, you know, that's what we were told.
If I'll add to that, I mean, these dates of this process for the oxidation ditch preceded this whole board by a long time. We know we had to move on this mostly because we're living on borrowed time with our current equipment. So it isn't like you can all of a sudden shut that flow off to position yourself to wait another year on a maybe. This is something we have to do, and as he just explained, this is not piled into those other multiple projects. So we are hoping to still get that help, but even at that, that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I guess my only point is, since it's been in the thought process so long, our first thoughts should be, might be a grant out there for it. As Mike Adams is up here, they're talking about a new fire truck in 4 years. Well, let's start looking for a grant right now.
Mhm.
May take 2 years to get it, who knows?
No, the USDA is really in tune with buying fire trucks, with building buildings. That's right up their alley, okay? And we are talking with them about the DPW/utility building that we'll be having a discussion on tomorrow at the work session. So, yeah, we are trying to utilize their availability as one of the options for that financing of that building. You know, we'll have some commentary tomorrow about that as well, but there's an opportunity there to get some funding out of USDA towards that, as well as a comparative option to what a local bank will provide us with. You know, that's what I know.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion with a second, and if there's no further discussion, let's have roll call, please.
Whedon,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Downey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to new business, and item A is approved budget amendment in the amount of $6,677 for the additional cost of hiring a full-time police chief for the remainder of fiscal year 2019-20, which is 5 months.
Mayor and Commissioners, in the administrative structure of the police department, there's a chief and assistant chief. The assistant chief's, excuse me, a little tickle. The assistant chief position at the police department will not be filled going forward, since Tim's was the hands-on operations person at the police department since being here in 2012. So we won't fill that position, but for the new police chief position being filled, and the starting salary requires us to do a budget amendment of $6,677 to, which is the wage gap between the part-time chief position and the full-time chief position. So that's what we need. I'm asking you to approve for the remainder of this year, which represents 6 months. We're going to be talking about the budget here in the next month, in 2 months, 3 months, right up until you finally approve our budget. And at that time, it'll be written into the wage budget for 20 and 2021 budget. So right now, we need to do a budget amendment to approve that added wage to the police department's budget.
Okay, are there any questions about that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget amendment.
I'll make the motion to approve the budget amendment in the amount of $6,677 for additional cost of hiring a full-time police chief for the remainder of fiscal year 2019/20.
Is there support?
I think he's probably worth it, so I'll support it.
All right, very good. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Attorney?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes,
Motion carries.
excellent. Thank you very much. And now we are, item B, consider the approval of the medical marijuana renewal application of G2 Developments of Michigan LLC to operate a Class C grow facility and a processor facility at 408 River Street.
Mayor and Commissioners, Deb will be here to help, explain that.
And I'll add, yeah, he's like over anxious. And then let's just say, are you going to also discuss item C at the same time, the
Yes.
renewal application? Okay,
I
so,
put them under two items because the first two are at 408.
Okay.
And the other one is the 101.
excellent, okay,
That's
thank you.
why.
All right, very good.
But in your packet, you have the application. Everything has checked out. Ed and his other shareholder passed the police department background check, flying colors. And I will tell you, even though the paperwork that you have here is a summary, that Ed and Sherry was here all day last week because they had had some changes in their LLC, updating all of the notebooks from, 2018. So if you're looking for some reading, I have some orange thick binders that you're welcome to peruse. Everything is up to date. And the burning question that I had asked Ed was, when do you think that you're going to be operational? And he was kind enough to share with me that for the grow and the processor, they hope to be up and running either in April or May of this year. For the provisioning center, you can see that's under construction. They hope to be ready about the same time, March or April. So I'm here for questions I can answer. Ed is here, and I'm sure he'd be happy to expound on my remarks and answer any questions you might have.
And I'll actually entertain any questions on either of these items, so B or C, just say which facility you're referring to. Go ahead.
I have a question about the 408 facility. A few months ago, we had approved, I think, running the electric across the creek, and I'm just curious where is that done?
It's not completed yet. The electrician is working on the underground inside the building, and then we'll be proceeding with the boring.
Excuse me one second. Ed, I don't want to interrupt you, but can you speak in the microphone, because we do tape this? So you might have to kind of crank it your way, but, okay. Thank you.
Okay, the electricians are currently working on the underground within the building, and when that, that should be completed within the next week to 2 weeks. And forgive me, I forget the gentleman's name, he's from Buchanan, he will do.
Carl.
Carl, yeah. He will do the underground boring for us, and we'll go through that process of going underneath the creek.
Anyone else have any questions about the approvals?
No, we got the dates from Ed, and he thinks he's gonna be open, which is a good thing. So, that's good.
Could you give me a reason why Niles kind of beat us when we are so intellectually higher and in so many ways of bureaucracy, we know what we're doing than another city near us? How did they beat us? How did they do that, Ed?
I don't know. I've not been over to see their facility. I saw a couple of glimpses of it on TV, and there were a lot of hamburger joints before McDonald's.
Okay, very good answer. That's very good. Excellent. All right, any other questions? Well, thank you for
Thank you,
sharing
Ed.
your
Thanks, Ed.
expertise with us. And we'll entertain a motion for item B.
Item A, you're on it first.
No,
No.
item B
I'm
is
sorry.
the 408 River Street.
I'm one behind you.
I'll make the motion to approve the medical marijuana renewal application of G2 Developments of Michigan LLC to operate a Class C grow facility and a processor facility at 408 River Street.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, and I'll entertain a motion on item C, on 1101 East Front Street. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the medical marijuana renewal application of G2D1 Buchanan LLC to operate a provisioning center at 1101 East Front Street.
I will support.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Downey,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
If I may, I want to thank you, the Plan Commission, and my phone contact list has gotten really long. I've gotten to know many of the people on the staff in the city of Buchanan. And I tell you, for a small town, you guys really have a tremendous group of people who really have their heart in the city, and it's been a fun process. They've worked diligently and worked as hard as they could for us, and if they didn't have an answer, they went and got it, and it's just been a complete joy, and I think I know we are just as excited to be in Buchanan as you are to have us, and I want to thank you.
Excellent.
Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you so much for those kind words. All right, we are now going to public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any non-agenda item.
He's
Anyone?
back.
I know.
I will recognize you.
Commissioners, Mayor, as you know, I'm Lou Payne, 113 East Front Street. My wife and I are the owners of Bucktown Nutrition. One of my goals this year is public speaking, so I'm here, right? So first off, I'd like to thank the police chief, Tim Gaines, for working with me on the parking issue downtown. So we currently went from 14 cars that are parked down there for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours at a time, down to 6 to 8 vehicles. So we're getting there, right? And then we got one that plays the bouncing game. Comes out every hour or so, moves to the other side of the road or whatnot. So that's where we're at on that. The last meeting you had mentioned that your hands were tied because you can't mark the tires, so you have no way of knowing how long they've been there. So I was just wondering if you've had any discussions, like coming up with a new plan, to maybe help me take care of this problem completely. It's been a tremendous help with Mr. Gaines and myself working together. And I'd just like to see this on a future agenda to maybe take care of this situation completely. And hopefully, I'll be able to speak better sometime.
Well, you're better than last
You do
time, Leland.
fine.
So good job.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm in the microphone this time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
that's
good.
Well, we'll discuss it with the city manager. I do have one question
Yes.
for you. When we did that trial 30 days of the signage for
Can I-
15 minutes,
Yeah.
was
Can I stop
that
you right
helpful
there?
or not helpful?
It was a 10-minute sign. It took them 2 days to prepare it and put them in, and they were only up for 1 day.
Did it have, what I'm asking was, when it was up, was there any effect as far as what you noticed even on that one
Well,
day?
it was only 1 day, and I think 10 minutes is a joke. It was to set us up for failure. Can't nobody pull up, get out of their vehicle, walk into a business, place an order, and come out all in 10 minutes.
So if we did that concept of the zone kind of parking, but did it a longer period, would that be something you would think would be more helpful?
Yes, I do. I think a 30-minute, 2 spots for us in the coffee house, maybe one for Gary Z's down at the other end, I think, but a 10-minute is unrealistic, especially if you come in and there's one person ahead of you, two people ahead of you. I don't think 10 minutes was.
Can I make a comment?
Well, actually, I think Mark
Oh, I'm
was
sorry.
No,
first.
you run all the lines. It's, yeah, it's
I mean,
really-
and I don't want to make a huge discussion out of the
No,
parking
I'm
thing
not-
again.
I just wanted
But
to kinda
I mean,
get from him
my
that-
only thing against putting up parking signs for whether they're 3 hours or 20 minutes, the question is about enforcement. It's not about the signs that are on the street. If we can't enforce 3 hours, how are we going to enforce 20 minutes? I mean, it's really about enforcement. It's not about,
Well, the issue of the enforcement is you can't chalk the tire.
But we can enforce an ordinance.
You can have a police officer there for 20 minutes. That's the alternative, and it's unrealistic to have them
it's a
there for
discussion we need to
3
keep having. I mean, I
hours.
think.
Right,
Yeah.
there's got to be a solution out there somewhere.
Okay.
Leland, what are some of the suggestions you've heard from other business owners? I think that's one thing that we continue to hear is, what are we gonna do, right, us
There's
specifically?
only 2 business owners that care. That's Dan Banach and myself.
Okay.
The other ones want to park in front of their business and walk 10 feet.
Okay,
Well-
so we're aware of that. So what are some of the suggestions, right? So it's been brought to our attention multiple times. I mean, just honest.
Enforce the ordinance of business owners and employees not allowed to park in the C3 area. They must park in a municipal parking lot.
Okay, so that's the current fact. Have you guys come up with any other, so for instance, we brought up the 30-minute sign, right? That's a potential solution.
Right. But I
We
can tell
continue-
you that all the people that are parking 3 hours or more
Mhm.
are all employees and business owners. They're not customers at all. They're all the employees and business owners.
Okay. Dan?
Well, we get a couple suggestions.
Okay.
This is the suggestions, because we're in the talking stage. One, we're gonna have a goal session coming up pretty soon. I would suggest that you would come to that goal session. That's when we talk about things, what will be good, what will be bad for the city. So maybe you might want to come to that. The only other thing is maybe some type of a decal that the city can give out to people who can park there and who people can't park. That way, that would be an indicator for the police.
Well, I don't think a decal for people who can park there would be any good, because that's the whole city of Buchanan,
Well, that's-
except who work there.
that
But
means-
maybe a
No, I
decal
think
for the
what-
people that can't
the
park.
I think
discussion-
what he's saying is, and I think you're on the right track, sorry, Pat, is for people who are associated as a business owner, who are, if we do that for an ordinance, then if you're associated with that business that is not a retail business, then the ordinance would state X. Then you would place a sticker that would say not authorized to park on the streets for whatever. It seems ridiculous, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that may be something.
It's something to discuss. It's something, we need some kind of indicator if we can't chalk the cars, and
Right.
then we can try something
When you park
else.
at Notre Dame, do you have to have a sticker?
We gotta have a tag.
That's what he's talking about. So if you had that tag on your vehicle, you would not be permitted to park on the street.
They told
You
me-
would have to
So they
park-
can't shop at a different store? So he couldn't go park in front of Gary Z's and get a sub because he didn't have the, I mean.
Okay,
yeah.
well, now this is getting, we're, too much discussion. I just wanted to get from you some solutions of what would be acceptable. You can expect Chief Gaines will be able to keep continuing to work with you. I've had a discussion with him about his plan, and I think that sounds the most realistic thing to do. If there's some other solution, you should bring that to the city manager, and then that will be our route to decide through a meeting route or a workshop route, how else to help you, and really help the other person.
And I'll try to brainstorm some more
Okay.
before the next meeting, and, because it's not something that I want to have to do all day, every
No,
day,
I
Monday
understand
through
that,
Friday.
I understand
You
that.
know.
And you've come to the DDA, you've come to other meetings to try to get relief. So that's why I'm bringing this back and forth, which we normally don't do
And I
at
do
this point.
understand your point, too. Yeah. Can't park at Gary Z's to get a sub if I got that sticker on.
Well, we
Yeah,
just
but you're
bumped
also-
up his pay, so give him a call.
But you're also not gonna abuse it either. He's gonna put me down a rabbit hole, but I work downtown now. I'm not gonna park in front and abuse those. If I park in front, it's for a limited amount of time, and then I'm gonna park in the designated parking areas. For
Right,
that
'cause you're-
very reason. If I had a sticker, it's even more
Okay,
visible to the
well,
community.
we're trying to wind this conversation
If I
down.
can wind it
Rev it
down.
up.
Stop time.
Thank you for your comments, though, Leland.
Yes,
It's
thank you
helpful.
so much.
It really is.
Thank you.
Okay.
And you did a good job.
Anyone else wanting to make a public comment? Okay, let's go on then to the city manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you. One little tidbit that we have tonight also is that this is Brenda Hess's last meeting as clerk. She'll be gone by the next meeting, which is in February 10th, but we will be inviting her back in a more formal manner to speak with you on that, unless she wants to take an opportunity tonight, but she's working tonight, so we'll give her that
Yeah, let's do it when
opportunity.
it's free.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I'm charging mileage just because you said that, Whedon.
And you're out of order, Mark. Sorry.
I will say at this time that Brenda has done a heck of a job as city clerk. She has taken a office that was piled and piled of paperwork, and again, school teachers must have this built-in ability to organize things, because she did an amazing job to reduce the amount of paper. She must have got rid of tons of paper, actually tons of paper. Her files are organized, and she's already prepared for the election that she won't participate in, but other than as a worker, we hope. But yeah, I just wanted to bring a little bit that to everybody's attention, that this is her last working meeting of as being clerk. So again, we will invite her back for a more formal recognition. So. Outside of that, that's all I got.
And you're also reminding us of the work session tomorrow.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, refreshing my
I know you were
memory.
just
And
about
again,
to say that.
yeah, we have a work session tomorrow regarding the DPW/utility barn. And I say that because in talking with USDA, they're more inclined to lend money towards a utility barn than a DPW barn. So just some the things that they like to see in the verbiage. So so we'll kind of talk about that tomorrow as well.
Okay, very good.
And we do have invites out to the representatives from each of the sorry, I'm tickled. Representatives of each of the submitting companies that provided us with some background on evaluating that site. So, they'll be here
Very good.
tomorrow.
And 3 of the 4 have confirmed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
excellent.
good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you, and thank you for preparing for that meeting tomorrow. Anything else?
No, we've got
Okay, we'll
we got
move
2
on.
dozen things on the burner, but
Yeah.
right now I can't think of them.
Okay. Commissioner Dennison, let's start with you, and we'll just go right this way.
No comments.
Okay.
Just briefly, I wanted to, on a night where we're welcoming Tim as our chief, I wanted to thank City Manager Marks for his service as police chief and his time and his dedication. It's appreciated. And I also wanted to congratulate Tim. I've never heard a bad word about him, and I know he'll make the community proud. That's all I have.
Excellent. Commissioner Tierney?
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, I'd like to congratulate Tim. He's an outstanding individual. His sons are outstanding individuals. I have dealings with them, so I understand how they are good people, because you are a good person, so congratulations. Bill, as our former police chief, you were outstanding, and I really appreciate that. My main focus tonight is Brenda. Brenda, you're going to be sorely missed. Where am I going to start? Well, start as a school teacher. You were an excellent school teacher. You were an excellent commissioner. You were an excellent mayor. You were an excellent city clerk and a wonderful neighbor. Sheila and I will miss you and Chip, who's here tonight, as neighbors. But I understand there's another call that really needs to be taken care of. So I just, from the bottom of our Sheila and I's hearts, we really appreciate all your hard work, and you will be sorely missed. That's all, Your Honor.
Commissioner Whedon?
Same, very similar to everybody else. Tim, thank you so much for all your hard work and dedication. I think tonight was no big surprise to anyone, the show of support for the choice of yourself to be police chief. There's a brotherhood and a sisterhood in the police force, and I want to make sure I didn't leave you out. That if anybody who's served in the military, the structure is very similar, and that family goes beyond what everybody sees here, the laughter and the camaraderie that we are so lucky to have in the city of Buchanan cannot be expressed enough. And to have somebody that's from Buchanan and to hold that honor and to have people see you in that fashion is, we're very lucky. Let's just say that, we're very lucky. So, Chief, thank you. Well, City Manager Marks. Sorry, it's going to be a hard time to get out of that, right? But thank you for your years of service in that regard as well. Brenda, can't say enough great things. Thank you so much for everything. I'm sitting here today because of a good friend made a suggestion one day that I should run for a particular office, and questioned it many times, but I appreciate all the time and dedication you've given and the support you've had for every one of the people at this counter, so thank you.
Are you done? Okay, very good, thank you. And really, when you look at what we spend money on, what we choose to spend money on as a city, over 52% of our budget goes to public safety. And tonight was really a sterling example of why we invest so heavily in our community in that way. Look at the quality of the people we have around us. We are so fortunate. The firemen are working so hard to do something that will benefit not them personally. They're spending hours and energy and money of their own to see something that is achieved, because it's a challenge. It's something they're looking to better themselves and better things for us. That kind of dedication you just don't see in every place and everywhere. The police chief here is, tonight we saw the baton being shifted from a person who's dedicated at very little cost to the city, has done 2 jobs for several years, and now we are going to transition to a full-time chief that will be in a different role than before. But look at the quality of the people we have here. Tim, you're a quality guy. We trust you. We have total faith in you that you are not going to have issues that are going to give us pause. Anything can happen, but we know you have the interests of the community at heart. Even the people who are going to have a bad interaction with the police, you're also worried about them. You're not worried about how people are looking or who's going to be in favor and playing favorites with people. This community is so special, and sometimes we don't take a minute to really appreciate it. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happens. All these people here are spending all this time to see something better than what we had last week. And I deeply, deeply so appreciate it. Brenda is an example of someone, look, who has seen something that she thought she could make a small effort to just sit on the commission, go attend a few meetings. That's how everyone gets suckered in up here, okay? Come on, just sit out a couple meetings and you'll love it. But before you know it, here she's taken this whole career turn. She's been a great mayor. She's changed so many people's lives with the little free library and all of the children's program after school. That was another thing that she just did on her own because she thought that would help the community. And here, she's not only worried about her situation, which is, you know, making this change now happening, but she's made sure we're taken care of. She's got us covered, so we don't have to worry about, you know, not having something happen during election. We can trust our election process will be solid. We won't have problems. She's made sure of it. And that is what we have in this community. We are so darn lucky. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful to you all, even for you coming on a Monday night to sit here and go through this with us. We really appreciate it. It means a lot. So thank you all to be here and celebrate these people with us. So, thank you, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. The meeting's adjourned.